The day unravels with a sick twist in my stomach as I peel an eviction notice from my apartment door, the paper sharp against my unsteady fingers. It's not just the weight of it, crisp, official, pinned there like a judgment, but the way it slices through the haze of my morning. My name, Elise, sits in bold at the top, a taunt above a deadline I can't meet. The date stamped in unforgiving ink. 3 days. 3 days to conjure cash I don't have, to pull some miracle from the wreckage of my life. I'm a graphic designer, or I was, before the city's grind chewed me up and spat me out. Freelance gigs dried up, clients ghosted, and the savings I'd scraped together bled away. Rent, groceries, the endless hum of urban survival. Now this. The notice trembles in my grip, my palms damp against its edges, and I feel the walls of my studio apartment closing in, a sleek trap I can't escape. I shove the door open, the hinges groaning under the push, and step inside. The space is small, too small for the rent they charge, $1,800 a month for a single room with a kitchenette shoved in the corner, and a bathroom so narrow I can touch both walls at once. Gentrification's fingerprints are everywhere. Polished hardwood floors, a gleaming countertop I never use, a window that frames the city skyline like a postcard. But it's a lie, this polish. The pipes clank when I turn on the tap, the heat sputters half the time, and the neighbors, stacked too close in this concrete hive, seep through the walls with every cough, every slammed door. I drop my bag on the floor, the thud swallowed by the drone of traffic outside, and press my forehead against the cool glass of the window. Streetlights bleed through the blinds, their sodium glow pooling on the floor, and I wonder how long I've got before they change the locks. A rhythm cuts through the quiet. Sharp, deliberate taps on the hardwood. My head jerks up, pulse kicking hard against my ribs. Victor's here. My landlord doesn't knock, doesn't announce himself with a text or a call like a normal person. He just arrives, like he owns more than the building. Like he owns me, too, now that I'm behind. His polished shoes gleam as he steps inside. The sound of his soles, a metronome against the floor. He's all edges. Tailored suit hugging his frame. Dark hair clipped tight to his skull. Voice low and precise when he speaks. "Elise," he says. And it's not a greeting, it's a summons. "Rent's due." No preamble, no softness. His eyes, a cold gray that matches the steel of the city, lock on mine, and the room feels smaller, the air thinning under his stare. I straighten, folding my arms across my chest, but it doesn't hide the way my hands shake. "I know," I say, and my voice comes out thinner than I want, frayed at the edges. "I'm working on it." It's a lie, and we both know it. There's no gig lined up, no paycheck coming. Just a stack of unopened emails from clients who've gone silent and a bank account with $47 left. Victor doesn't move, just stands there, hands in his pockets, the faintest tilt to his head like he's sizing me up. His suit jacket shifts, revealing the crisp white of his shirt, and I catch the scent of him. Something expensive, cedar maybe, cutting through the stale air of my apartment. It's not fair, how put together he is, how he can stand there like the world bends to him while I'm unraveling. "You're 3 months behind," he says, each word landing like a stone. I've been patient. Patient. The word twists in my gut, because his patience isn't kindness. It's a leash, tightening now that I've got nowhere to run. I open my mouth to argue, to beg for time, but the sound chokes off as he steps closer, the floor creaking under his weight. The table sits between us, a cheap slab of wood I bought secondhand, its surface smooth and cold under the chandelier's dim glow. It's the only thing keeping him at a distance, and I cling to that, a flimsy shield in a room that's stopped feeling like mine. Next door, Lena coughs, a wet rasp that rattles through the wall. I flinch, the noise yanking me back to the reality of this place. How thin the barriers are, how every sound carries. She's always there, Lena, with her cropped hair and her chain smoking, her footsteps pacing the hall at odd hours. Victor doesn't react, doesn't even glance toward the sound. His focus stays on me, unrelenting, and I feel it like a weight pressing down, pinning me where I stand. "I need something by tomorrow," he says, and it's not a request. It's a deadline, another one, stacking on top of the notice still crumpled in my fist. My throat tightens, a sour taste rising, and I wonder how I got here. How the city I came to conquer turned into this, a landlord's shadow stretching across my floor. The street outside hums, cars rolling past, a siren wailing somewhere far off, and I think about running. Not far, just out the door, down the stairs, into the night where the lights blur and the air moves. But there's nowhere to go, no one to call. My parents are 1,000 miles away, oblivious. And my friends, well, they've got their own rents to pay, their own lives to juggle. Victor's still watching, waiting, and the silence stretches taut between us. My fingers curl against the table's edge, the wood grounding me as my mind races. I don't have the money. I don't have anything he'd take, except maybe something I don't want to give. The thought flickers, dark and unbidden, and I push it down, but it lingers, a shadow at the edge of my vision. He shifts, just a step, and the light catches the lines of his face. Sharp jaw, faint stubble, a man who looks like he's never known a day of doubt. Figure it out, he says, and turns toward the door. The tap of his shoes fades, but the weight of him stays, heavy in the air, in the room, in my chest. I sink against the table, my legs unsteady, and listen as Lena coughs again, closer now, like she's pressed against the wall. The city keeps moving outside, indifferent, and I'm left here, the notice in my hand, Victor's words in my ears, and a ticking clock I can't outrun. Victor doesn't budge. He's planted there, one hip pressed against the counter, his shadow spilling across the floor like a dark tide creeping toward me. It pools at my feet where I stand, rigid by the table, the hardwood cool beneath my sneakers. His voice cuts through the quiet, oily, precise, sliding into the air like a blade slipping through silk. We could come to an arrangement, he says, the words slow and heavy, each one sinking into me, pressing against my chest. My lungs clamp shut, a tight vice squeezing the air out, and my ribs ache with the strain of holding myself together. An arrangement. It's not an offer, not really. It's a lure, sharp and glinting, dangling in the space between us. I feel my body before I see him move, every inch of it waking under the weight of his stare. My arms are crossed tight, pressing into the soft swell of my chest, the thin cotton of my shirt pulling taut across my breasts. They're full, heavier than I'd like sometimes, and I can feel them shift with each shallow breath. A faint rise that betrays how fast my heart's hammering. My waist curves inward beneath my ribs, a dip I've always been conscious of, flaring out to hips that strain the denim of my jeans. The fabric clings there, hugging the roundness of my thighs, thick and sturdy from years of walking the city's endless streets. My legs lock now, muscles tensing, a tremor running through them as I fight to stay still. Sweat beads at the nape of my neck, sticking strands of dark hair to my skin, and I feel the dampness pooling under my arms, soaking into the shirt's seams. He steps closer, just a fraction, and the air thickens, grows dense with his presence. His scent hits me, cedar, warm and woody, laced with something deeper, like leather left in the sun. It curls around me, seeping into my senses, and my throat tightens, a dry rasp as I swallow hard. The apartment's faint light carves his face into stark lines, cheekbones high and sharp, jaw shadowed with stubble, eyes a cold gray that pin me where I stand. I've clocked his type before. Men who wield power like it's their birthright, slicing through life with a flick of their wrist, but never this close, never near enough to feel the heat radiating off them. My skin prickles, a current sparking beneath the surface, and my stomach twists, revulsion tangling with a dread that sinks low, pooling in my core. My fingers dig into my palms, nails biting flesh, and I feel the sting ripple up my arms, long, soft at the edges, but strong enough to carry me through late nights hunched over a laptop. My hands are small, knuckles pale from clenching, and they tremble now, betraying the steadiness I'm trying to hold on to. The flush creeps up my neck, a slow burn spreading across my collarbone, visible where my shirt gapes open just enough. I'm not fragile, my frame's solid, built from years of hauling groceries up 3 flights, of standing too long on crowded trains. But under his gaze, I feel exposed, every curve and hollow laid bare. My lips part, a quick breath slipping out, and I hate how it sounds soft, unsteady, like it's giving something away. The city's restless hum filters through the windows, a low pulse of noise, tires rolling over asphalt, a horn blaring blocks away, the faint clatter of metal on concrete. It's a tether to the world outside, but it feels distant, like a song playing in another room. The blinds slice the streetlights into thin bands, striping the floor, and one catches my hand where it rests on the table. My skin glows there, pale against the wood's dark grain, and I notice the faint freckles dusting my wrist. A scattering I've always hated. The table's cool under my fingertips, a smooth slab anchoring me as my mind spins. My legs shift, just enough to ease the ache building in my calves, and the denim rasps faintly, a sound swallowed by the quiet. What kind of arrangement? I force the words out, my voice thin but steady, cutting through the silence. It's a dare, a push, though it wavers at the edges, laced with a tremor I can't bury. He doesn't answer right away, just watches me, and the pause stretches, taut and charged. My pulse drums in my ears, a wild beat matching the city's rhythm outside, and I'm hyper-aware of myself, my hair clinging to my neck, damp and heavy, my chest rising too quick, pressing against my shirt, the heat pooling in my belly, unbidden and sharp. His gaze dips, slow, deliberate, tracing the line of my throat, the swell of my chest, and my skin ignites under it, a flush I can't stop. I'm not small, curves I've wrestled with, hips that fill out every pair of pants. But next to him, I feel caught, pinned by something I can't name. He shifts again, the counter creaking under his weight, and his shadow moves, brushing the tips of my sneakers. It's not a touch, not really, but I feel it. A phantom pressure climbing my legs, settling in the hollow behind my knees. My thighs clench, a reflex I can't control, and the heat in my neck spreads, blooming across my cheeks. Pride wars with the jagged pull of desperation inside me, a clash that leaves me raw, frayed at the seams. I know his price will cut deeper than cash. It's in the tilt of his head, the faint twitch of his lips, the way his eyes hold mine, steady and unyielding. My breath catches again, a quick, ragged pull, and I press my hands harder against the table, the wood biting into my palms. It's all I have to hold on to. This flimsy barrier between us, as the air grows heavy with what he's not saying. The city hums on. Cars, voices, a siren wailing far off. And I think about bolting, just for a second. Out the door, down the stairs, into the night where the lights smear and the air moves. But my feet stay planted, my body locked in place, and the thought fades as fast as it comes. Victor's still there, his scent lingering, his shadow stretching, and I feel every inch of myself, my soft arms, my full chest, my trembling legs, alive in a way that terrifies me. Something mutually beneficial, he says at last, his voice low, threading through the space like a current. It's vague, deliberately so, but the intent lands hard, sinking into me, and I'm left wondering what I'm willing to give, what I've already lost just standing here. It's just us now. The room quiet, except for the faint buzz of the city beyond the walls. A low hum of tires rolling. A distant horn cutting through the night. The silence inside presses against my ears, thick and unbroken, and I feel it like a weight on my chest, pinning me where I stand. Victor's eyes linger on me, steady and unreadable. Gray pools that catch the dim light and hold it. I shift on my feet. The hardwood cool beneath my sneakers, and my legs tremble faintly, a ripple of unease climbing my calves. My hips sway just a fraction, the denim of my jeans pulling tight across them, and I'm acutely aware of my own shape. Curves I can't hide, soft where the world feels hard. The eviction notice is still crumpled in my fist, its edges digging into my palm, a reminder of why he's here, why I'm still standing in his shadow. My voice breaks the stillness, hesitant but clear, slicing through the quiet like a thread pulled taut. How can I thank you for the rent when I don't have the money? I pause, the words catching in my throat, then push on. Maybe we can work something out. They spill from me, heavy with implication, and I feel them hang between us, suspended in the air like smoke. My stomach twists, a sharp pang that sinks low, and my breath hitches, a quick, shallow pull I can't steady. I didn't mean it to sound like that, like an offer, like a plea, but it does, and there's no taking it back. My fingers flex, uncurling from the notice, and I drop it to the floor, the paper fluttering down with a soft thud that echoes in the stillness. Victor doesn't speak, not right away. His gaze holds mine, unblinking, and I feel it like a touch. Cool, firm, tracing the line of my throat where a flush is creeping up, warming my skin. He steps closer, the hardwood creaking under his weight, a slow, deliberate sound that matches the rhythm of my pulse drumming in my ears. His shoes gleam, polished black catching the chandelier's glow, and I catch his scent again. Cedar, warm and earthy, curling into the space between us. My chest tightens, my shirt pulling across my breasts as I breathe too fast, the fabric brushing against me, heightening every sensation. I'm not small. Full hips, a waist that dips, then flares, legs sturdy from years of pacing the city. But under his stare, I feel laid bare, every inch of me exposed. The dining table sits like a silent witness in the center of the space, its surface smooth and dark, reflecting the light in fractured glints. It's cheap, secondhand, but solid, and I edge closer to it, my fingers brushing its cool edge. The wood grounds me, steadies the tremor in my hands, and I press my palms flat against it, feeling the grain beneath my skin. Victor's shadow shifts, stretching across the floor, brushing the tips of my sneakers, and I feel it climb my legs. A phantom pressure, subtle but insistent. My thighs tense, muscles locking, and a heat blooms low in my belly, unbidden, sharp. I hate it, this pull, this flicker of something I don't want to name. But it's there, coiling tight beneath my dread. He's closer now, close enough that I can see the faint lines at the corners of his eyes, the stubble shadowing his jaw. His suit hugs him, crisp and dark, and there's a quiet power in the way he moves. Not rushed, not eager, just certain. Work something out, he repeats, his voice low, threading through the air like a current. It's not a question, not an echo. It's a response, testing the weight of my words. My lips part, a ragged breath slipping out, and I feel the flush spread, burning across my cheeks. My hair sticks to my neck, damp with sweat, and I shift again, my hips brushing the table's edge, the contact sending a jolt through me. I'm trapped, not by him, not yet, but by this moment, by the bargain I've cracked open. The chandelier's glow dances across the table's surface, a soft shimmer that plays over the wood, and I focus on it, trying to anchor myself. The air feels undisturbed. No footsteps, no interruptions, just the two of us, bargaining in the dim light. The city hums beyond the walls, a restless pulse, cars sliding past, a shout swallowed by the night. But it's a world apart, unreachable. My fingers press harder into the table, nails scraping faintly, and I feel every curve of my body, my chest rising too quick, my hips pressed against the wood, my legs trembling beneath me. I'm offering something, or he's taking it, and the line between them blurs, a haze I can't see through. What do you mean? I ask, my voice softer now, fraying at the edges. It's a push, a need to hear him say it, to make it real. My pulse races, a wild beat syncing with the city's drone, and I feel the heat in my core flare, sharp and insistent. His lips twitch, not quite a smile, and he steps closer still, the creak of the floor louder now, deliberate. His shadow swallows mine, and the tables between us, a barrier or a bridge. I can't tell which. My breath catches, my chest straining against my shirt, and I feel every inch of myself, soft, alive, teetering on the edge of something I can't name. The air grows heavy, thick with what's unsaid, and I'm left here, bargaining with a man who holds more than my rent in his hands. Below is part 4 of The Table Between Us, expanded to approximately 5,000 characters, including spaces and punctuation, based on the provided summary excerpt. It adheres to the guidelines: immersive storytelling from Elise's perspective, vivid sensory details, suspenseful pacing, and a modern urban setting. The focus is on the physical and emotional intensity of the kiss, with emphasis on Elise's body and reactions, tailored for an adult romance audience using creative language. avoiding banned words or explicit phrasing. This is the fourth of 95,000 character parts to reach the 45,000 character total. We're still alone. The world outside muffled by the apartment's walls, its clamor reduced to a faint whisper, tires hissing on wet pavement, a siren threading through the night, too distant to matter. The silence in here wraps around us, thick and unbroken, pressing against my ears until all I hear is the uneven rhythm of my own breath. Victor closes the gap, his presence a slow tide rolling in, unstoppable. His hand brushes the table's edge, fingers grazing the wood with a casual ease that belies the weight of the moment, and he leans in. My breath catches, a tight coil winding in my chest, squeezing my lungs until they burn. I feel it ripple outward, a tremor that shakes my frame, and then his lips find mine. The kiss is firm, unhurried, a steady pressure that roots me where I stand. His mouth is warm, tasting faintly of mint and something darker, like the cedar clinging to his skin, and it presses me back, guiding me until my hips meet the table's cool surface. The wood bites into me, a sharp contrast to the heat flooding my body, and I lean into it, the edge digging against my jeans. My fingers grip the table, curling around its rim, the grain rough under my palms as I steady myself. My knuckles whiten, nails scraping faintly, and I feel the tension in my arms, soft at the edges but taut now, straining to hold me upright. Warmth surges through me, a wave that starts at my lips and spills down, igniting my skin, flushing my neck, my chest, my core. His frame is solid against mine, a wall of heat and muscle that doesn't yield. I feel him through the thin layers between us, his chest broad, pressing closer, his thighs brushing mine as he shifts. My legs tremble, sturdy thighs quaking beneath the denim, and I press them together, trying to still the shake, but it only sharpens the ache building low in my belly. My hips tilt, just a fraction, caught between the table and him, and the fabric of my shirt pulls tight across my breasts, the swell of them rising with each quick, ragged breath. I'm not small. Curves that fill out my clothes, a waist that dips, then flares. And I feel every inch of myself now, alive, exposed, pressed against the unyielding shape of him. The city's hum fades to a distant pulse, a soft throb swallowed by the walls, and it's like we've slipped out of time, out of the world beyond this room. The table holds us, its gloss reflecting the tangle of our shadows, a blurred dance of light and dark under the chandelier's glow. The fixture sways faintly overhead, casting flecks of gold across the wood, and I catch our outlines there. My silhouette softer, rounded, his sharper, angular, merging where we meet. My hair falls forward, strands sticking to my damp neck, brushing my cheeks, and I taste sweat on my lips, mingling with his warmth. My fingers tighten on the table, the wood cool and firm, anchoring me as my body leans into his, drawn by a current I can't fight. No one's here to see, no one's knocking. The thought flickers, a fleeting spark, and it's a strange relief. The apartment's thin walls silent for once, the city's eyes turned away. It's just us, locked in this moment, the air growing heavy with our breath. His hand lifts, not to the table this time, but to my jaw, his fingers long and warm, tracing the line of my face with a touch that's light yet sure. My skin tingles under it, a flush blooming where he brushes, and I feel my lips part. A soft sound escaping, half gasp, half sigh, before he presses in again, deeper now. The kiss shifts, grows bolder, his mouth claiming mine with a quiet intensity that sends heat curling through me, pooling in places I can't ignore. My chest presses against his, my shirt straining, and I feel the rise of my own curves, the way they mold to him, soft against his hardness. My arms ache from gripping the table, but I don't let go. It's my tether, my last hold on control as warmth floods me, relentless, overwhelming. My thighs shift, denim rasping faintly, and I feel the pressure of him there, his frame steady, unyielding, pinning me without force. The table's edge digs harder into my hips, a dull ache I welcome, grounding me as my pulse races, a wild beat thundering in my ears. The city's pulse is gone now, drowned by the rhythm of us. His breath, my breath, the faint creak of the wood beneath my weight. His lips move against mine, slow but firm, and I taste him again. Mint, cedar, a hint of salt, and it's dizzying, pulling me under. My fingers slip on the table, sweaty now, and I catch myself, palms flat, feeling the cool gloss slide beneath them. My body arches, just enough, drawn to him, and the heat in my belly flares, sharp and insistent. I hate how it feels, right, wrong, both at once, and I hate how my skin hums where he touches, how my legs weaken despite their strength. The chandelier's light dances over us, glinting off the table, and I see our shadows twist, a fleeting image of surrender. It's just us. No one else. And the world outside doesn't matter. Not the rent, not the notice, not the city spinning on without me. Just this, locked here. The table bearing witness to whatever we've started. The kiss deepens, a current pulling us from the table's edge, fierce and unrelenting, like a tide dragging me under. His lips press harder, warm and insistent, and I feel the shift, a spark flaring into something wilder, hotter, coursing through me until my skin hums with it. My hands lift, fumbling for a hold, and find his shoulders, broad, unyielding beneath the crisp fabric of his suit. My fingers curl there, gripping the muscle beneath, feeling it flex as he moves with me. We stumble through the narrow space, my sneakers catching on the hardwood, his shoes scuffing in sync. The apartment's tight walls guide us, a funnel toward the bed, and my breath comes fast, ragged, scraping my throat as the table falls behind us, its cool edge no longer pressing into my hips. What started on the table grows, his touch bolder, hands sliding from my jaw to my waist, fingers splaying wide, warm through my shirt. My pulse races, a frantic drumbeat pounding in my ears, my chest, my core, and I feel it everywhere. My skin flushing, my legs trembling as we reach the bed. The mattress dips beneath us, a soft groan of springs cutting through the quiet, and I sink into it, my weight pulling the sheets taut. His frame follows, solid and steady, pressing me down as we stretch out, the narrow bed barely holding us. My thighs shift, denim rasping against the cotton, and I feel their thickness, sturdy yet quaking, as they brush his. My hips tilt, caught in the dip of the mattress, and the heat in my belly surges, a tight coil winding tighter with every move. The city's glow filters through the blinds, casting stripes across the sheets, thin bands of gold and shadow that slide over us, painting my arms, his hands, the rumpled fabric beneath. My shirt pulls tight across my chest, the swell of my breasts rising with each quick breath, pressing against him as he leans closer. I'm not small. Curves that spill over my jeans, a waist that flares wide, and I feel every inch of myself now, soft and alive, molding to his harder lines. The air thickens with our rhythm, a syncopated dance of breath and movement, heavy with warmth and cedar, and the faint salt of sweat. My fingers slip from his shoulders, trailing down his arms, feeling the tension there. But it's my own body I notice more. My neck arching, hair tangling on the pillow, my lips parted and tingling from the kiss. The table stands abandoned now, a stepping stone to this, its gloss catching the chandelier's faint light across the room. Its roll fades, a silent witness left behind as we stretch out on the bed, the mattress creaking beneath our weight. My hands find his chest, palms pressing flat, feeling the steady rise beneath his shirt, and my own chest heaves, straining my seams. The heat floods me, relentless, pooling low, and I feel my thighs part just enough, denim stretching as my legs adjust. His touch shifts, bolder still, fingers tracing the dip of my waist, the curve of my hip, and I feel it like a brand. Warm, firm, stirring the ache that's taken root inside me. My breath catches, a soft sound swallowed by the air, and I'm lost in it, in him, in the blur of where we've landed. Time blurs, the minutes slipping away, unmarked by the world outside. The urban sprawl hums beyond the walls, cars rolling, a distant shout, the clatter of a trash can tipping over. But it's oblivious, a muted pulse that doesn't reach us. The blinds rattle faintly, stirred by a draft, and the light shifts, stripes sliding across my skin, catching the dampness on my forearms where sweat beads. My hair clings to my neck, heavy and warm, and I feel every curve of myself, my hips sinking deeper into the bed, my chest brushing his, my legs trembling despite their strength. His frame presses closer, a steady weight that pins me without trapping, and the air grows dense, thick with our mingled warmth, our uneven breaths. My fingers curl into his shirt, nails scraping fabric, and I feel the heat of him through it, the solid plane of his chest against my softer one. My lips burn, still tasting him. Mint, cedar, a hint of salt. And the kiss lingers in my blood, a current that won't fade. The mattress dips again, springs protesting as we shift, and I feel my body yield, arching into him, drawn by a pull I can't name. My thighs ache, muscles tight from the tension, and the denim pulls taut, rasping as I move. The city's glow stripes us still, a quiet witness to the line we've crossed, and I wonder, fleetingly, what that line even was. Rent, pride, something deeper. But the thought dissolves, swept away by the heat, the rhythm, the way my skin sings where he touches. The table's silhouette fades in the corner of my vision. Its role done, a bridge we've crossed and left behind. My hands slide up, tangling in his hair, short, damp at the roots, and I feel my own hair spill across the pillow, a dark wave against the white. My chest rises too fast, pressing against him, and the ache in my core sharpens, a pulse that matches the city's distant hum. Time doesn't matter here, not now. The minutes stretch, bend, lose shape as we stretch out, the bed holding us, the world outside blind to what's unfolding. My breath hitches, a soft, broken sound, and I'm caught in it. This heat, this blur, this moment where I'm not sure who's giving or taking, only that we're here, tangled, alive. Victor pulls away eventually, his warmth receding like a tide drawing back, leaving me stranded on the shore of the bed. His breath steadies, a slow, even rhythm that contrasts the uneven rasp still clawing at my throat. He sits up, the mattress shifting beneath him, springs creaking faintly as his weight lifts. My eyes follow him, tracing the lines of his frame as he straightens his shirt, fingers smoothing the crisp fabric over his chest, tugging the collar back into place with a practiced flick. The suit jacket, rumpled from our tangle, hangs loose on his shoulders, but he carries it with the same quiet certainty he brought into this room. He stands, and the hardwood groans under his polished shoes, a sound that cuts through the stillness as he walks to the door. A faint curve tugs at his lips, satisfied, content, a ghost of a smile that doesn't reach his eyes, and he leaves without a word, the latch clicking shut behind him. I'm left on the bed, the sheets rumpled beneath me, twisted into knots where my body pressed them. My skin still hums where he'd been, warmth lingering on my lips, my chest, the curve of my waist where his hands had rested. I feel it like an echo, an imprint burned into me, and my fingers curl into the cotton, gripping it as if it could anchor me. My thighs ache, thick and heavy from the tension, sprawled across the mattress, and the denim of my jeans pulls tight, rasping as I shift. My chest rises and falls too fast, the swell of my breasts straining my shirt, and I feel every inch of myself, soft, alive, marked by the heat we'd made. Sweat beads on my neck, my hair clinging there in damp strands, and I taste salt on my lips, a remnant of him that won't fade. The apartment feels hollow now, the air thinning as his presence drains away. The table stands silent in the corner, its gloss catching the chandelier's dim glow, a mute witness to what's past. It's just wood again, smooth, unscarred, abandoned, and I stare at it, my gaze tracing its edges, wondering when it stopped being a barrier and became a bridge. My breath slows, but my pulse still drums, a faint echo in my ears, and I roll onto my back, the mattress dipping beneath my weight. My hips sink into it, wide and heavy, and my arms stretch out, soft at the edges, but trembling faintly, palms up, as if waiting for something to fall into them. The ceiling stares back, a blank expanse of white, and I fix on it, letting it steady me as the questions start to gnaw. Did I do the right thing? The thought sinks its teeth into me, sharp and persistent, tearing at the edges of my calm. My stomach twists, a dull pang that settles low, and I press a hand there, feeling the warmth of my own skin through the shirt. What did I trade? The rent, yes. 3 months of debt wiped clean. A roof still over my head. But there's more, something intangible slipping through my fingers. My pride, maybe, or a piece of myself I hadn't meant to give. My lips still burn, tingling where his pressed, and I lift a hand to them, tracing their shape. Full, soft, now raw from the kiss. My chest tightens, a knot of doubt and heat, and I wonder what I've kept. My space, my survival, or just the hollow ache blooming inside me. The city's noise creeps back in, seeping through the walls like water finding cracks. Tires rolling over asphalt, a low hum that vibrates the floor. Voices drifting up from the street, sharp and fleeting, swallowed by the night. The blinds rattle faintly, stirred by a draft, and the glow filters through, striping the bed, my arms, the rumpled sheets with bands of light and shadow. I feel them slide across my skin, cool where I'm still warm, and I shift, my hair fanning out on the pillow, dark against the white. My legs stretch, heavy and unsteady, and the denim clings, damp at the seams from sweat. The air feels thicker now, laden with the scent of cedar in me, a mix of warmth and salt, and I breathe it in, letting it fill me as the city hums on. I stare at the ceiling, its blankness a mirror for the tangle in my head. My fingers uncurl from the sheets, falling limp at my sides, and I feel the softness of my arms, the curve of my waist sinking into the bed. Did I choose this, or did I just let it happen? The question loops, relentless, and I see his face again. The faint curve of his lips, the gray of his eyes, the way he walked out like it was nothing. My chest heaves, a slow, uneven rise, and I feel my curves press against the mattress, full, heavy, alive with the memory of him. The table sits there, silent, its role done, and I wonder if it knows, if it holds the weight of what I've done. My breath catches, a soft hitch, and I close my eyes, but the dark doesn't answer, just leaves me here, warm, alone, questioning. The city keeps moving. Cars, voices, a distant clatter, and I feel it like a pulse beyond the walls, indifferent to the line I've crossed. My hand drifts to my stomach again, pressing harder, and the ache shifts, a mix of heat and doubt that won't settle. I traded something, kept something, but the scales feel off, tipping in ways I can't measure. My lips part, a slow exhale, and I taste him still, a lingering thread that ties me to the moment. The bed holds me, the sheets cool now against my skin, and I lie there, staring up, wondering what's left when the heat fades, wondering if I'll ever know. Morning light spills through the window, painting the room in soft grays, a gentle wash that softens the hard edges of the night. I sit at the table, my body slumped into the chair, its wooden frame creaking faintly under my weight. My finger traces the table's surface, smooth, unscarred, cool beneath my touch, and I feel its stillness, heavy with the night before, like it's absorbed every moment and holds them now, locked in its grain. My skin brushes the wood, soft at the tips, and I linger there, circling the same spot, as if I could draw out what happened, unravel it into something I can understand. My coffee sits beside me, a chipped mug steaming faintly, its warmth fading into the air, untouched. The bitter scent curls up, sharp against the stale quiet, but I don't reach for it. My hands stay on the table, tethered to its silence. On. I replay it all, the memories flickering like a reel behind my eyes. The kiss, firm and warm, pressing me back against this very wood. The bed, its springs groaning as we stretched out, my pulse racing under his touch. Victor's easy exit, his shirt smoothed, his lips curved as he walked away. My chest tightens, a dull squeeze, and I feel my breath catch, a soft hitch that stirs the quiet. My shirt pulls across my breasts, the fabric worn thin, and I feel them rise with each slow inhale. Full, heavy, still warm where he'd been. My hips press into the chair, wide and solid, grounding me as my legs stretch out. Thick thighs spilling over the seat's edge, denim clinging to my skin. My hair falls forward, dark strands brushing my cheeks, and I tuck them back, my fingers trembling faintly, soft but unsteady. The city wakes outside, horns blaring, sharp and insistent, cutting through the morning haze. Footsteps echoing in the hall, a quick tap-tap that fades as fast as it comes. The sounds filter through the walls, a restless pulse that pulls the world back into motion. But here, it's just me and this space. Reclaimed, or maybe lost, I can't tell which. The table gleams under the light, its gloss catching the gray glow, and I stare at it, my finger still tracing, feeling its weight in a way I didn't before. My arms rest there, soft at the edges, pale against the wood, and I feel every curve of myself, my waist dipping, my hips flaring, my body settling into the chair like it's trying to root itself here. The warmth from last night lingers, a faint hum beneath my skin, but it's tangled with something colder, heavier, pressing down. Lena's door creaks next door, a low groan of hinges that snaps me out of the loop in my head. She's awake, moving, a reminder of the world turning on. Her boots scuffing the hall, her life spilling into mine through these thin walls. My lips part, a slow exhale slipping out, and I taste the air, coffee, cedar, a hint of salt still clinging from him. My hand lifts from the table, hovering, then falls to my lap, pressing against my stomach, where a quiet ache blooms, unnamed and persistent. I feel lighter, like the weight of the rent's lifted. The eviction notice a crumpled ghost on the floor, but there's a counterweight too, a shadow settling in my bones. My chest rises, straining my shirt, and I feel the softness there, the way it yields as I lean forward. Elbows on the table now, cradling my head. The light shifts, gray deepening as clouds roll over the city, and the blinds clatter faintly, stirred by a breeze sneaking through the cracked window. The glow stripes the table, thin bands sliding across its surface, catching my fingers where they rest. My skin looks pale there, freckles dusting my wrists, and I notice the dampness still clinging to my neck, sweat cooled by the morning air. My legs shift, denim rasping against the chair, and I feel their strength, their ache, sturdy but worn from the night's strain. The city's noise swells, cars snarling, a shout bouncing off concrete, and I let it wash over me, a tide that doesn't quite reach this hollow space. The table's smooth under my elbows, cool against my forearms, and I wonder if it feels different now, if it knows what it held. Did I reclaim this place, or lose it? The question circles, a quiet echo of the one from last night, and I press my palms flat against the wood, feeling its unyielding plane. My breath steadies, slow and deep, and I feel my body settle, my hips heavy, my chest softening, my hands stilling. The coffee's cold now, its steam gone, and I stare at it, the dark surface reflecting nothing back. Victor's exit plays again. His steady steps, his curved lips, and I feel the ache sharpen. A tug low in my belly that's not just heat, not just doubt, but something in between. My fingers curl, nails scraping the table faintly, and I lean back, the chair creaking as my weight shifts. The light softens, gray and gentle, and I'm here, alone with this space, this table, this quiet I can't name. The city hums on, horns, footsteps, a distant rumble, and I feel it like a heartbeat beyond the walls, alive where I'm still. My hair falls again, brushing my shoulders, and I leave it, letting it frame my face, heavy with last night's dampness. My chest lifts, a slow rise, and I feel the weight there, the softness, the memory of his touch. The ache lingers, a quiet pulse I carry, and I wonder if it's freedom or a tether, something gained, something traded, something I'll never pin down. The table sits silent, unscarred, and I trace it one last time, my finger slow, feeling its weight, its truth, as the morning light holds us both. Days later, I hear a new rhythm through the walls, someone moving in, a steady pulse of life seeping into my quiet. Boxes scrape across the floor next door, a rough drag of cardboard on tile, punctuated by thuds as they drop, heavy with someone else's belongings. A low hum of chatter filters through, voices overlapping, bright, careless, threading through the thin barrier like a needle pulling thread. My skin prickles, a faint sting racing up my arms, and I sit up on the bed, the sheets cool against my legs where they've slipped free of the denim. I imagine them setting up their own table, its legs creaking into place, its surface bare, and waiting for their life to mark it. My chest tightens, a quick squeeze, and I feel my breath catch, a soft snag in the stillness as I picture it. Someone else's beginning where mine feels tangled, unresolved. The building pulses, doors clicking shut down the hall, a sharp snap that echoes, pipes groaning deep in the walls, a low rumble that vibrates the floor beneath my bare feet. It's a slice of the city's endless churn, this stack of lives pressed too close, each sound a thread in the urban weave. I stand, my thighs brushing the bed's edge, thick and steady despite the faint ache still lingering there, and cross to the window. My hips sway, denim pulling taut, and I feel every curve of myself, my waist dipping, my chest rising under the worn shirt, soft and full as I lean against the sill. The blinds clatter faintly, stirred by my touch, and I peer out, the city's glow smearing across the glass. Streetlights, neon signs, a haze of motion stretching on. Victor hasn't returned. His absence a quiet void that hums louder than his presence ever did. The rent still looms, a shadow I can't shake. 3 months paid, he'd implied. But no papers, no proof. Just his curved lips and steady steps fading out the door. My fingers drift to my mouth, tracing their shape. Warm, still tender from that night. And I feel the heat flare, a faint echo low in my belly. That night lingers, etched into the table's stillness, its smooth surface a silent keeper of what passed. I glance at it now, standing in the corner, its gloss catching the dim light, unscarred but heavy with memory. My hand lifts, hovering, then falls to my side, soft and unsteady, and I feel the weight of it. Freedom from the notice for now, but a tether to what happened here, pulling tight.